For the first time in this 2020 season, we've got Coors Field on the slate for tonight for MLB DFS. And for those of you who don't know or are new to MLB DFS, Coors Field is basically like playing baseball on the moon, where there is less gravity because it is at a higher altitude, and that means baseball's gonna fly. That's a great thing for DFS because we want offense, and we're probably gonna get it each time there's a game at Coors Field. The problem is the people at FanDuel and other DFS sites are very aware of this and will adjust salaries to compensate for the fact that there's going to be offense there. So you always have to choose. Do you want to go with Coors Field, or do you want to get cozy at pitcher and find a good person there? Tonight, I'm not sure you have to decide. I think that you can actually do both. Kind of have your cake and eat it too. So let's break that on down and get you set for tonight's slate. Welcome on into the solo shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Here to break down tonight's 12-game main DFS slate with lock set for 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And a couple of weather notes for tonight. Thankfully, none of them at Coors Field. There is a slight chance of rain in Atlanta for the Braves and the Mets. The wind is also blowing either in from right field at 10 miles per hour or a crosswind. It's kind of right between those two right now. The rain threat is always kind of there because it's summer in Atlanta. It can rain anytime, but I would check back on the wind to make sure it's not blowing in. As of right now, I guess it winds up as a crosswind, but just a note to check in on the Braves-Mets game later on. There is rain in Baltimore for the Orioles and the Rays, but it looks like it should be moving out by first pitch. I would bet that game is okay, so no true concerns there. And a big one, outside of knowing Coors Field, you also should know, if you're new to MLB DFS, that wind is a major factor at Wrigley Field. And today, the winds are blowing in from center at 11 miles per hour. That is tremendous for pitching Cubs and Pirates, and that will factor into our pitching analysis for tonight. Wrigley, again, one of the more wind-susceptible parks in the league, so bump up pitchers in that one, bump down hitters a pretty significant amount. We'll dive into today's slate in just 1 second. First, though, a reminder, we got a whole lot of stuff popping on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. We have, of course, the solo shot, which you are listening to right now, whether it be on the YouTube page or on the DFS feed. I had a NASCAR podcast go up yesterday for the Foxwoods Resort Casino 301. Austin Swain broke down the UFC card for tomorrow night. That is already posted. And Tom Vecchio doing a lot of work there. He has podcasts up about today's NBA DFS slate, which locks, I think, at 2:30. So make sure you check that out if you're playing that. And also the Daily Deke has debuted, his new NHL podcast, which goes up every weekday previewing Saturday's slate. So to get NBA, NHL, UFC, MLB, or NASCAR analysis, and then next week PGA analysis too, make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. And if you like what you hear, please leave a rating and review as well. For years, numberFire's premium subscription service has provided our users with expert analysis, survivor pool tools, and most importantly, the fantasy football draft kit, all for up to $49.99 a month. Now, as a way of saying thank you to our community for years of support, numberFire is rolling out a new premium package for just $9.99 a month that will provide you with all the sports betting and daily fantasy tools you need year-round. And the best part is that expert analysis, those survivor tools, and yes, even the draft kit are now free. If you want to get my rankings for season-long fantasy football, head to numberFire.com. They are there alongside those of JJ Zachariason and Brandon Gadula. Projections via numberFire are there as well. So go to numberFire.com, check out the new and improved site, and take advantage of the new premium package. Pitching preview for this Friday main slate over on FanDuel. Luis Castillo is the highest salaried arm. He is $10,100, followed by Mike Clevenger against the Twins at $9,800. Blake Snell on a pitch count, $9,500. Yu Darvish is $9,100. And Lance McCullers rounds at the top group at $9,000. And you got Mike Minor and Zach Gallen as the others at $8,000 or higher. And it is a slate where we want to get to Coors hitters, and it's a slate where the wind is blowing in at Wrigley Field. And to me, when you combine those two things, I think that makes Yu Darvish the top pitcher of the night, even after some rough spots in his first start so far this year. And the reason I am drawn towards Darvish, factoring in Coors, is Darvish is $9,100. That is low enough where you can stack at least one side of Coors Field. And I think that is very forgiving. In that first start for Darvish, he went 73 pitches, but didn't seem to be fully locked on. I was listening to that game on radio, so I didn't get to watch it, but listening to it on radio, it didn't seem to have it like he had every start for the second half of last year. Darvish let up 3 runs over 4 innings on 73 pitches, and he did struggle a bit in the exhibitions as well. So you might not be super inclined to go with Yu Darvish in cash games. I think I'm going to be there. I think that you could justify not going there based on the poor results last week, but I think I'm going to go there in cash games, and I'm definitely going there in tournaments for tonight, partly because he's facing the Pirates. That's a super cushy matchup, also at home, which is always good. And even though Darvish wasn't completely on last week or over the weekend, he wasn't super erratic either. His zone rate, the percentage of pitches that were inside the strike zone, was in line with last year's number. He also had a 15.1% swinging strike rate. So I'm not expecting a return to where he couldn't find home plate, which is where he was at the beginning of last year. And the strikeouts should still be there, given the number of whiffs he got in that game. We also saw Darvish keep on using his cutter and his splitter, which were really good pitches for him and helped key to that second half surge for Darvish. If we look at 16 starts for Darvish, including last week, since he started to lean more on that splitter a bit, he has a 2.59 skill interactive ERA. He has a 36% strikeout rate and a 2% walk rate. Those are disgusting numbers all the way across the board. That's while allowing just a 32% hard hit rate. And again, the safety should get a bump here thanks to this matchup with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Even if Darvish is off, will they make him pay for it? I don't know. Potentially not, and I think that's a good thing for him. So again, I'm probably going to wind up going Darvish and cash, although I do understand why you may not want to. And for tournaments, I am definitely in, and he is the top arm in my mind for tonight, especially when you consider his salary is $9,100, which is forgiving enough to let you stack Coors Field as long as you pair that Coors stack with a lower salaried stack as well. Now, the other 2 guys on this list are both facing the same team they faced last week, which is a concern. We don't want that familiarity between pitcher and opposing batter. They're also facing each other, which means one of these 2 pitchers is not going to get a win. But if we are trying to predict strikeouts, I think these 2 will be near the top of the chart for tonight. The first one is Luis Castillo, and the second is Spencer Turnbull. Let's go through both those guys and why they're worth it, despite the concerns about the familiarity angle. Starting with Castillo, who is $10,100. I think the appeal here should be fairly obvious. He is facing the Tigers as a righty, which is, I think, one of the best matchups in baseball right now, because the Tigers' active roster since the start of last year has an 82 WRC plus against righties, a 26% strikeout rate, and a 7% walk rate. And part of the reason those numbers are as bad as they are is because of what Castillo did to them last week. He struck out 11 batters over 6 innings of 1-run ball. He also threw 91 pitches, which means that he is fully stretched out. The positive thing for Castillo is that he continued to emphasize his changeup. And I was not really in on Castillo for long chunks of last year, but he did start to get better as the season went along and as he started to emphasize that changeup more often. Over his past 19 starts, including last week, with more changeups, he has a 3.68 skill interactive ERA, a 30% strikeout rate. Those are fantastic numbers. He will still walk guys, and that helps bolster the case for Darvish over Castillo in cash games, and Castillo is more expensive at 10-1, whereas Darvish is $1,000 cheaper. But Castillo has the high strikeout matchup that we like, and he looked electric, while Darvish did kind of lag in their respective openers. So I think you can go either way here. I prefer Darvish because of the weather there. The longer-term track record for Darvish is better. But Castillo is great too, and they are firmly the number 1 and number 2 pitchers on my board for tonight. I think there is a tier down from then to Mike Clevenger, who would be the number 3 pitcher straight up. But I do think that tier 1 is definitively for me Darvish 1, Castillo 2. Let's talk about Turnbull now, because he might not be as easy of a sell as Castillo, because Turnbull last year finished with a 4.61 ERA and a 4.62 skill interactive ERA. So it's not as if he was unlucky. That's not the kind of guy we tend to use in DFS. But last week, Turnbull was unreal. He had a 17.2% swinging strike rate against this very same Reds team. He had 8 strikeouts over 5 innings and 87 pitches. Though he did walk 4 batters, it's worth mentioning that. In addition to the strikeouts, there were some walks, that's worth noting. But the reason that the strikeouts were so high is because Turnbull was using his filthy slider a pretty good amount. Last year, the expected savant, and as the season went along, we saw Turnbull start to lean on that slider more and more. And that carried into last week because he threw it 24% of the time, which is an increase from about 20% last year. And over his final 12 starts, or his past 12 starts, including his final 11 last year, that slider usage has gone up, and Turnbull's strikeout rate has gone up too. It's 27% in that 12-start sample. Turnbull has at least 8 strikeouts in 3 of his past 5 starts, all with an increased emphasis on that slider. He said that he worked on his diet and on his mental health during the offseason and that he's feeling better on the mound right now. He said he feels more confident than he has in the past, and it showed last weekend. It helps that it's not just the narrative there. There is data to say this dude's looking like a different pitcher. I am willing to take dives on players like this in situations like this where they're players who show out in small samples and have legitimate reasons like increased emphasis on a new pitch or maybe better mental health and stuff like that. If I have reasons to believe the success could be sustainable, I'm willing to buy it. That can go awry sometimes. There is always danger in diving in on small samples. So if your risk tolerance is low, then Turnbull's probably not your guy. I have a very high risk tolerance when it comes to MLB DFS. So he's $7,800 on the slate where I would love to pay for bats at Coors Field. So I am willing to get speculative shares now on Turnbull and see where they take me. If it burns me, it's one night of DFS, a couple lineups with him in there. That's okay. I will live. But I think the upsides of him paying off are pretty high. So Turnbull, my number 3 pitcher for tonight. Again, I rank Clevenger higher straight up, but I think once you factor in the salaries, not okay. It's not bad. To jump down to Turnbull at $7,800. So Darvish 1, Castillo 2, Turnbull 3 for my pitchers for tonight. Moving to stacks, we do have to start here with Coors Field because, again, it is the first Coors slate of the year, and I think either side of this game is stackable, and I will have shares of both for sure. But if I had to pick one side, I'd rather stack the Padres than the Rockies. Padres are facing John Gray. Gray allowed just 1 run over 4 2/3 innings in his first start, but the underlying numbers were concerning here for Gray. The big one for me was that he had just a 7.6% swinging strike rate. That is despite facing a Rangers team that loves striking out. He still didn't get a lot of strikeouts and didn't get a lot of whiffs. Normally, I would be okay writing off his first start where the velocity was lower and his situations didn't really work out for John Gray, didn't get a lot of whiffs. The roof was shut in Texas. Cooler temperatures lead to lower velocity, so maybe you could write these things off for John Gray. But the four-seam velocity for Gray was down 1.7 miles per hour. His slider velocity was down 2 miles per hour. When you combine that with his lack of whiffs against a high strikeout team, I think that becomes a concern then. Last year, Gray let up a 40% hard hit rate, so if he's not going to get strikeouts, he could be in trouble really quickly. So I do like the Rockies here against Garrett Richards. I think that they're fine, but I don't like their offense very much, and Richards doesn't allow that many balls in play. So, yeah, I'll stack the Rockies because it's Coors Field, but my preferred side will be the Padres here against John Gray. And part of that, too, is that the Padres have some guys I think are undervalued, specifically Trent Grisham, way too low salaried here at $3,300. If we look at Grisham against righties, since the start of last year, a 38% hard hit rate, a 47% fly ball rate. He's going to put the ball in the air. Good things tend to happen at Coors Field. When you do that, take advantage of that huge outfield in the thin air. Eric Hosmer has been sick. He's missed the past couple of games. Potentially could play tonight. He is $3,500 and was actually putting the ball in the air before he got sick. Again, there are dangers in buying the small samples, but if he plays, I will use Hosmer here. I would also mention that Manny Machado's batted ball numbers against righties last year were better than you would expect, so I'm still in on him too. Overall, I just think the Padres, the better way to attack Coors Field for tonight, but if you can stack both, awesome. If I'm picking one, I'll go the Padres over the Rockies. Now, normally on a Coors Field slate, we'd have to choose between stacking Coors and stacking the Yankees. But honestly, the Yankees have some guys who are a little bit lower salary. They did get a salary boost for tonight, but I think I am okay. I feel okay personally recommending them here, and I think that they are in play for our Castillo and for our Darvish lineups as well. And I definitely want them in there because they're facing Ryan Weber. And Weber plays for the Red Sox, which means we're probably going to stack against him. Weber got absolutely rocked last week against the Orioles. Not as good as the Yankees, shockingly. He had a 4.6% swinging strike rate there. He allowed 6 earned runs over 3 2/3 innings and allowed 2 home runs. The Yankees, tough matchup if you're struggling. Weber does get some ground balls and he does limit hard contact, but the strikeout and walk numbers are pretty rough. So last year in AAA, he had a 4.50 ERA despite the ground balls and the limited hard contact, and ERA was 5.09 in the majors, and the peripherals supported those numbers. So even though he does do decent stuff with his batted ball profile, the plate discipline numbers bad enough where we can stack against him. As a starter since the start of last year, the strikeout rate for Weber just 10%, and it's hard to get by on that no matter how well you suppress hard contact, especially against the New York Yankees. So the Yankees are near the top of my list once again here. I think Aaron Hicks is a big key to making them affordable at $2,900. He is striking out more than you like. Another strikeout last night, but did have a dinger 2 nights ago, a double last night, and he should be getting his timing back after all the time that he missed last year. So I'm down to go there again. I think the hope here is that Mike Ford bats 6th again like he did Wednesday. That makes things a whole heck of a lot easier. So we'll have to slip a 20 to the Yankees, try to get Mike Ford in there. But overall, they're not as expensive of a stack as you would expect. Hopefully Gleyber Torres is good to play. And I think that the Yankees are affordable despite this being a Coors Field slate for tonight. As far as the third stack goes, we are going to go an anti-fun route. And I'm sorry in advance, anti-fun, not fun, but I feel like we have to do it here because the Royals are starting Chris Bubich. And Bubich looks pretty fun based on his numbers in the minors. He's had a super small track record there and is suddenly getting promoted. Kudos to the Royals for that, being aggressive, and that's fun. But he's coming all the way up from single A to make his first start. His numbers there were awesome. 2.08 ERA in low A, 2.30 in high A, and he got whiffs and strikeouts. The White Sox also probably don't have tape on this guy, which is a good thing for him, but that is a huge jump to go from high A all the way to the majors. That's tough to begin with, and I think the White Sox are actually a really good offense and a crazy tough assignment for your first career big league start. It is hard to see this because the White Sox have had so many changes. They're a different team than they were last year. So we haven't seen the White Sox in their current state over a large sample set, but this White Sox offense is good. If you look at their active roster, since the start of last year against lefties, they have a 122 WRC plus. That's tied for the Dodgers, tied with the Dodgers, so the highest on this slate against the opposing pitcher's handedness. That's how good this White Sox offense has been against lefties since the start of last year. They have Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, Edwin Encarnacion, Tim Anderson, and even Yoan Moncada. All those guys have a WRC plus of at least 120 against lefties since the start of last year. I don't want to look at WRC plus for individuals in that time, and I just did, I know, but I'm not saying you should use those guys because of that, but I'm saying when we see it on the team-wide level over a sample of more than 1,000 plate appearances, sign me up, baby. I think this White Sox team could be a one we are stacking pretty often against lefties so far this year, so why not start tonight against Chris Bubich as he goes all the way from high A up to the majors. And the White Sox, they don't have a ton of true value plays, but they do have guys who are middle range salaries, and I think that's affordable for tonight. Eloy Jimenez was not on that list of guys who have crushed lefties, but he did get back in the lineup on Wednesday. He can crush. Luis Robert is now there too, and that dude is super strong. So I have a feeling we'll be stacking this White Sox team a bunch against lefties this year, and I'm going to get a head start on that right now against Bubich, even though it isn't as fun to go against the rookie in his debut as it is to use the rookie in his debut. But I think for tonight in this matchup, I think that we should go with this White Sox offense as our third stack of the night. Things to watch for Friday night. You will notice that Blake Snell is $9,500 and facing the Orioles. Generally, we love that, but he will not be my player pool, and that's all because of a pitch count and not due to Snell himself. Snell was reportedly on a pitch count entering last week, and that did play out in fruition because he threw just 46 pitches. If I am projecting a pitch count for Snell tonight, probably somewhere between 60 and 70. That's not long enough for him to hang with guys like Darvish and Castillo. So I'll probably use Blake Snell later this year, but I need him to ramp back up first before I buy back in. So watching Snell for now, not using him just yet. Two other stacks that I dig for tonight are the Diamondbacks and the Braves, and some potential value bats here if you need some one-offs to help you afford Coors Field or the Yankees. The Braves are facing Rick Porcello. Porcello was legit back in the day, but those times have left us for sure. He has been trying to lower the usage on his four-seam fastball for a while now, and he kept that up last week in his first start of the year. It hasn't helped yet. In his past 15 starts, Porcello has a 4.79 skill interactive ERA with a 19% strikeout rate, and he hasn't allowed many walks, but that also means more balls in play. And he's not getting enough ground balls or suppressing hard contact for that to be a good thing. He had a 5.52 ERA last year. He hasn't shown many signs of improvement so far this year, and that means we can go at the Braves here, and I would especially like the guys who will swing from the left-hand side. That's Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, and Matt Adams. Adams only $2,600. He is one of those potential one-offs you could target for tonight if you need help getting up to the expensive hitters. As for the Diamondbacks, are facing Tony Gonsolin. Gonsolin, another guy, can get some strikeouts, had a 26% strikeout rate in Double-A last year, but he also allows a ton of hard contact and is a fly ball pitcher. In 6 starts last year, the strikeout rate for Gonsolin went down to 21%. That's not high enough if you're going to allow as much hard contact as he does. That's a plus for the Diamondbacks, and they've got some good value sticks here. One of those is Cole Calhoun, who is $2,700. Christian Walker, likely going to bat 5th for tonight. He has a 47% hard hit rate and a 40% fly ball rate against righties since the start of last year. Does strike out a bit, 27% clip there, but not high enough to scare me off, especially when he's $2,400. And we can also get David Peralta for $2,600. So a good potential outlet for value. So if you want to get those 3 valued Diamondbacks and then pay up for your other hitters, like if you pair them with Darvish, you can have a lot of freedom with your hitters. So I think if you're looking for a value stack for tonight, the Diamondbacks may be number 1 on that list, and probably a team I'll use more than my 5th ranked stack for tonight. That is all that we have for today here on the Solo Shot, but don't forget, we are back here again later today, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages to talk to you about this MLB DFS slate as the lineups come out, get you set for tonight's slate, and answer any questions you may have about that slate. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages to get that. And again, make sure you check out all the goodness in the DFS feed, the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, to get you set for NBA, NHL, UFC, and NASCAR all coming up in the next couple of days. It is a great time to be a sports fan once again. Big thank you, as always, to Calvin Theobald. He is our video producer. Thank you, Cal, for the video side of things here today, as always. If you have any questions for me, I am on Twitter at JimSannes, JimSannes. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Good luck with your DFS lineups for tonight and this weekend. We'll talk to you again this afternoon and also next week. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.